Good afternoon, and thank you for joining this webinar from Yellowstone Advisory. Today's company presenting is Dialight PLC, who released their full results on the 30th of March. Whilst we're waiting for everyone to arrive, please could you respond to the poll on your screen? And before the presentation commences, I'd like to just go through a couple of admin points. You're all currently on listen-only mode, and if you do want to ask a question, please type it into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. We've had a few questions sent in ahead of time, and we'll cover all questions at the end of the presentation. The format today is a presentation from David Blood, the Chair, and Fariyal Khanbabi, the CEO, which will last about 20 minutes, and then we'll hand over to Q&A. And following the meeting, you'll be redirected to a short survey, and it'd be really appreciated if you could spend a few moments looking at it. So just looking at the poll responses, looks like we've got about 3/4 of you are new to the story, or non-holders, and 25% holders. And of course, everyone is very welcome. And I'm now going to hand over to David of Dialight to start today's presentation.
Thank you, Alex. Sorry, I still saw that the question of whether we're shareholders or not, and Generation is a shareholder, which I'll get to here in a second. Thank you all very much for joining us. I wanted to do three things very quickly before I turn it over to Fariyal, the Chief Executive Officer. The first is to tell you a little bit about Generation, which is the largest shareholder of Dialight. Secondly, to tell you about some of the challenges Dialight has experienced over the last couple of years. And thirdly, to tell you why Generation is excited about the company. The first thing, that Generation, just as context, has been an investor in Dialight for over a decade. The Generation itself has been in existence now for 17 years. We manage approximately $35 billion of assets, of which 30 is in the public markets and 5 billion is in the private markets. Everything we do has a view of sustainability as a driver of economies, and that environmental social governance factors are tools to help us understand businesses and management teams. This investment framework has been designed to deliver strong risk-adjusted investment results. And I'm pleased to say that in addition to luck, this framework has been extremely successful over the course of the last 15 or so years. Dialight is not for the faint of heart. Dialight has had its share of problems. It is a small company, and more recently, it had a very difficult time in a transition to an outsourced manufacturer, which resulted in a significant drop in sales, and I would say a very difficult time in the markets. That said, under Fariyal's leadership, the company has moved out of the outsourced manufacturer, is delivering very strong manufacturing results, and importantly, and this is why we purchased the stock a decade ago, it has by far the best products in its class. The transition to a net zero economy, we believe, will be one of the most important economic transformations in history, if not the most important. LED lighting will be a critical part of that. The sales force that Dialight has developed over the course of the years and the customer relationships are extremely strong, and it's a technology company. The innovation associated with this product development is really very special, and it has led to some very significant product developments over the course of the last number of years. Fariyal became the chief executive on an interim basis in August of 2019, became the permanent CEO in March of 2020, and Dialight has benefited by her leadership. Her leadership specifically during the COVID crisis has been extraordinary. She has absolutely rallied the team, and there's no question that her management team is behind her. And indeed, so is the board. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Fariyal.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start off by describing our strategy in a little bit more detail. Our primary goal is to deliver significant growth. I mean, as David has mentioned, we've been through a bit of a rocky road, but that is definitely behind us. We believe that the combination of our products, our strong ESG credentials, The people and culture really differentiate us from our peers. Our growth strategy is focused on three key objectives. Firstly, it's to protect and grow in our core heavy and harsh industrial markets, which offer a significant growth opportunity. We have a leading position within this space, and we have a very highly qualified sales team, and I'll talk a little bit more about them later on. Secondly, as David said, we believe sustainability will be a major driver in the conversion to LED, and this is only being accelerated post-COVID-19. Therefore, we're building a strategic accounts team, which is focused on expanding our market reach, leveraging those corporate ESG goals, and building on our differentiated products. And this is really key to securing larger size orders and multi-rollout lighting upgrades. For example, we, 7-8 years ago, started working with Ford, and we have upgraded every Ford plant globally. I mean, unfortunately, that business is now at an end because we do some maintenance work with them, but actually all of their plants are upgraded. But our focus is to get more contracts like that. We are also working on expanding our customer reach, expanding our sales channels, and that that not only means end customers, but we transact through distribution and developing further channels such as engineering firms and electrical contractors, which is something we haven't done very much of in the past. And thirdly, we continue to lead the market in innovation so we can widen our market leading position. Despite all of the operational issues that this company had, we are still viewed as best in class in the industries that we operate within. We're working on the next generation of technology now, which is heavily focused on building on the sustainability needs of our customers, and where we have a goal to have the first fully recyclable product in the market. If you turn to the next slide, Chris. Dialight is a technology company, but we have 50 years of experience in the LED market behind us. We've been and we continue to be a pioneer. We launched the very first industrial high bay in this space 10 years ago. Our products last up to 5 times longer than traditional legacy lighting. We have the largest installed base within the industrial market with over 2 million fixtures worldwide. Our products focus on increasing needs of our customers to enhance safety, reduce energy costs, and more importantly, the heightened priority to the transition to net zero carbon. We have a major and growing part to play in this transition. As I said, we have the best in class designs and we're regarded as the premium product. Our industry-leading 10-year warranty is backed by the reliability and efficiency of our product performance. And that's actually been recognized by the National Lighting Bureau's Trusted Warranty Program. The strength of our products is backed by a highly trained sales team with a strong channel to market. Our sales team very much are quasi-engineers than what you would expect a traditional sales person to be. The industrial market is very much still dominated by older, inefficient technologies, and we believe that LED conversion is under 10%. We believe the catalyst for mass conversion is improved safety, increased energy savings, and eliminating maintenance costs. The environments that we operate within, the energy savings are just one part of it, but the maintenance costs in an area where safety or there's a hazardous process going on far outweigh the energy savings. And also we're seeing an increased amount of regulation globally, and that is only going to get stronger. If we move to the next slide. Dialight's core strengths center around our products. We provide the best cost of ownership to industrial customers, And the real beauty of our products center around our own in-house custom designed power supply. So if a fixture is going to fail, it's going to fail because your power supply fails. And we are the only ones out of our competitors that design and manufacture our own power supply so that we can stand behind our industry-leading warranty. It's not just a paper warranty. We have optimized optics to ensure improved light illumination. This enables our customers to actually light the target areas with far fewer fixtures than one of our competitors' products might have. Our products can withstand harsh environmental conditions such as extreme temperatures, humidity, high vibration, and corrosive environments. We've also added in recent years sensors and controls, which brings an additional element of value to our customers. Next slide, Chris. Turning to our product strategy, our continued investment in technology is based on a deep analysis of the attractiveness of the market balanced against our ability to win. Customers may be limiting spending now, but the demand for new and innovative products will increase once we see the global economy starting to recover. And we're seeing a lot of that in the US already. By retaining our focus on innovation, we can extend our long-term advantage. The timeline for developing new products and our ability to react quickly to market requirements will increase our innovation lead. During 2020, in the middle of the COVID crisis, we didn't take our eye off the ball and we continued to develop. We actually brought two key products to the market. I mean, the first on the photograph on the left-hand side was the bulkhead, and this is particularly important in the mining sector. And actually, we continued with this product specifically because of our very deep relationship with Rio Tinto, where we work pretty much exclusively with them in the APAC region. Our new bulkhead, we did have an existing bulkhead, but we completely re-engineered our product to extend the product life cycle, take advantage of all the technological advancements we've made. And this resulted in the efficiency of the product more than doubling. The second product on the right-hand side is the 60K. And this product we actually developed because of a need for Boeing. It is a high bay, but it is a high bay that can be used in ceiling heights of over 100 foot. And when we designed this product 5-6 years ago, it did really well with Boeing, but it was heavy. And if you can imagine a very high ceiling height, you've got to get two guys in a cherry picker, get up onto the ceiling and try and install this fixture. Well, our upgraded version is 50 pounds lighter and 60% smaller, which actually means that one person can install this fixture, which is, and since the launch, it's been incredibly successful. Moving on to the next slide. Dialight sales model is a direct specification sale to the end user, and we transact through the electrical distributors. The direct sales allows us to tell the value proposition. The distributor inclusion means we have simplified contracting and support for the larger contracts, so we don't have to have an extensive inside sales team. We have two types of orders. Firstly, maintenance, repair, and operations, which we call MRO, which tend to be smaller order size and it's regular flow business. And secondly, CapEx projects, which consist of upgrading either a whole plant or a partial area of a plant. With the onset of COVID-19 at the end of Q1, CapEx projects largely disappeared as many companies conserved cash. This represented 60% of our business in 2019. However, many of our customers are deemed essential businesses and have operated throughout this pandemic. and that's led to a need for replacement fixtures. We were able to really deepen our customer relationships, and this with maintaining our operational performance, maintaining our lead times, resulted in us really winning back the MRO business that we lost when we outsourced. And you know, that is continued through to 2021. Moving to operations now. Operationally, as I've said, we made significant progress. Our on-time delivery is at 80%, which is back to pre-COVID levels. Our Malaysian factory closed for a total of 6 weeks, and our Mexican facility closed for 3 weeks, while we worked with the government to gain essential business status, which I'm very pleased to say we got for all of our locations. The one challenge we had in Mexico is that under the government guidelines, we had some employees that were classified as vulnerable due to the fact that they had underlying health issues, and we continued to pay their salaries even though they couldn't return to work till just recently. We had a number of challenges with rebalancing some of the shifts and restricting the number of staff, but we took a lot of those measures right at the start of COVID, and that kept our workforce safe. That enabled us to get the essential business status, which many of our competitors didn't manage to get. We have sufficient capacity to more than double our sales without investing in new factories. It's just a case of adding additional people and obviously materials. If we turn to our sourcing strategy, the complex part of our business is our supply chain. It's the single biggest factor that we have to work on to ensure we meet those market leading lead times. We have a high number of SKUs. We have reliance on long lead time components, and it creates challenges. However, at the start of 2020, we had a real plan to drive down inventory, and we advised the market that we would reduce inventory by 7 or 8 million, and I'm very glad to say we blew that target out the water and reduced it by 13.5 million. And we did this by refining our forecasting, by focusing on localizing sourcing. I mean, as you can see in all the press, I mean, there is a lot of logistical challenges during 2020, which we still see in 21, and I think will be with us throughout the end of the year. We made also really good progress in working with our key suppliers, negotiating new credit terms. We worked on a controlled dual sourcing strategy. We were able to leverage price reductions. And with the generic items in our supply chain, we were able to work with suppliers on vendor managed inventory and consignment stock plans. We will continue with more local sourcing as border closures just highlight the risk of actually needing a much more localized approach. We have experienced some challenges with our critical suppliers. As I've said, you know, good suppliers turn bad suppliers in COVID, but actually the team has done an extraordinary job. And we managed through a much worse crisis, which was outsourcing and then insourcing. So this wasn't a walk in the park, but it was certainly not beyond the realms of the capabilities of our supply chain team. Turning to the next slide. As David said, we're a small company with a global impact, and we take our corporate responsibility extremely seriously. Our strategic priorities focus on driving organic growth, improving margins, while also developing new technologies. This strategy affects how and with whom we do business. And we're very embedded in the communities where we operate. People are really the heart of this business. We communicate both within and across the group, which is key to our engagement with our workforce. In the early months of the pandemic, there was extreme uncertainty. We held weekly global calls. We ensured real-time engagements. We have, and I still continue all of those even now, but they've moved to monthly. We really work on developing our workforce. And one of the key themes we have, which we started in 2020 and we are continuing into 21, is well-being. Not only the mental health, but also, developing healthy eating habits. Many of our workforce that weren't able to work in Mexico were because they had BMIs of over 30. So they are running very effective aerobics classes in the car park in our Mexico factory, which has really brought the team together. We also took the opportunity to work with the local community. Many of our employees and the wider community had virtually no support from the government, and we formed our Dialight Foundation in June, and that is governed by employees across the globe, and that's been great at really embedding us even further into the local communities. Next slide, Chris. Our carbon footprint is a combination of the CO2 that we use in our products and the CO2 benefits to our customers by using our fixtures compared to older, inefficient technologies. As I've said, we've installed over 2 million fixtures, saving over 1 million tons of CO2 per annum, which is the equivalent of removing 40,000 cars from the road per year. Our goal is to be carbon neutral in our internal processes by 2040. And I hope that we'll be able to do better than that, but that is the target that we have externally. As we build on our strong ESG credentials, one of the things that was very important to us was how do we measure that? And how do we communicate that to our customers? And we started by taking our new Vigilant bulkhead and preparing an environmental product declaration for this product, so that the customer has a measurable, tangible metrics to judge the superior performance of our products. And our plan is to roll that out against all of our products. And so in summary, I just want to say we're focusing on utilizing our existing sales team to drive growth in our core areas, building a strategic accounts team focused on expanding our market reach, leveraging those corporate ESG goals. And at the heart of the business is our continued focus on innovation and the next generation of products. Thank you.
Fariyal and David, thank you very much for that presentation. Thank you for that introduction, and interesting to hear your connection, David, going back many years. We're now going to take questions from the audience. As I said, we've had a few ahead of time. We've had some that have come in during the webinar itself. And if you do want to ask a question, please could you just type it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and get to as many questions as we can. Going to start with a question which references your full year results. In your full year numbers, you mentioned that project work had largely disappeared due to COVID. Are you seeing this work return as companies get more comfortable about the future?
Yeah, we are. I mean, some parts of the industrial sectors are recovering faster than others, but we are seeing a lot more quoting activity. We are seeing projects coming back on stream, and funnily enough, we've had a strong first quarter. Many of the projects that were delayed from Q1 2020 are back online, so we are seeing that. I mean, the oil and gas industry is still weak, but pulp and paper, food and beverage, they're booming.
Okay, I think there's a question here again, which perhaps relates to that a little bit, which is what gives you the confidence that sales will increase this year? Sounds like you've had a good first quarter, but is that the confidence base for the sales for the rest of the year?
Well, what gives me confidence is when COVID hit, we literally overnight lost 60% of our business because CapEx projects just stopped. But we were able to work. I didn't furlough any of the sales team. We were, our liquidity didn't require us to take really drastic action. So we kept the sales team intact, and they worked on winning back the customers that we lost through our operational difficulties. I mean, not so good for our competitors, but one thing that was very good for us was actually going back into facilities where they had put in competitor products less than 2 years ago. They have widespread failures, and Dialight's coming in to retrofit something that's only been installed 2 years ago. So that's what gives me confidence that the MRO business has really increased. We've clawed back market share. CapEx spending is starting to come back. How quickly it'll come back, I think, is anyone's guess, but just regaining the MRO business and gaining market share gives me the confidence.
We've got a question here from a shareholder who's been a shareholder for quite a long time, I think about 8 years ago. And he said, look, the product story is great, but obviously the share price was a little bit higher 8 years ago than it is now. Can you, I guess, really, what were some of the issues that have caused a bit of disappointment in the market over that time?
Well, I can tell you, I can answer this story from my own perspective. I mean, this business was was a real pioneer in this market. And I joined this business based on the CEO that was running this business. He'd been the brains behind this. I mean, he was CEO, come product manager, come operations manager. Just, I've never seen anyone work quite as effectively as he did. And he got taken ill and unfortunately passed away in a very, very short period of time. And it left the business with this big gap. I mean, I was 3 months into the role. We had an executive team that is nowhere near as strong as it is now. And they were used to working with a very high energy, charismatic leader. And we had a bit of a revolving door with I think I'm probably the longest serving CEO at this point in the last 5 years. So I'll take that as a positive. And we made a big mistake deciding to outsource. This business should always be in control of its manufacturing process, because it's not the manufacturing that is the difficult part. The difficult part is managing supply chain, and no one knows how to manage our supply chain like we do. And you can see that in just the fact that we've brought it back in-house. We're back to market leading lead times. When many of our competitors faltered during COVID, we were able to deliver, keep our lead times, keep our on-time delivery. And that was, there's no one there in the market talking about Dialight's operational problems anymore.
Thank you for that very personal and honest answer, Fariyal. I take it from what you're saying is that bringing the manufacturing processes back in-house solves the issues, and you're now sort of going on full steam there.
I mean, I personally have spent an awful lot of time in Mexico. I mean, not only at the outsourced manufacturer, but up until COVID hit. I mean, every 2 months we were there working with the factory. And we're producing the same amount of volume now that we did in 2015 with 50% of the workforce. So we've streamlined our processes. We've streamlined what we do on the factory floor.
Okay, thank you.
Alex, one thing I'd like to just add to this is, and Fariyal has alluded to it, and so did I in my brief remarks, is to say Dialight has made a number of mistakes in their self-inflicted wounds, particularly as relates to the CEO transition from Roy to Michael to ultimately to an interim to Fariyal. And then, of course, the outsourcing was terrible. And so I think as a 10-year shareholder, and I'm sure the 8-year shareholder has experienced the same set of disappointments, Dialight has absolutely overpromised and underdelivered. And so our focus now, and this is one of the reasons why I have such great respect for Fariyal, is she's no nonsense. She's focusing on delivering. And we are trying to tell the story a little bit better, but our real focus, frankly, is to deliver on results. And so we can have great speeches and we can have great presentations and we can talk about our great products, but if we don't execute, then who cares? So our focus maniacally now is on selling things and expanding our customer base, delivering to our customers, and building market share. And so we recognize that we have to prove it. Words don't matter anymore. Proof does, and that's what we're focused on.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, this is I guess a follow-up question, which is come from our audience today, and I think is linked to that. Is, I mean, you might not be able to answer it, which is when will you be profitable? I don't know. Can you give us any guidance on that?
This year is what we said in our full year results, and I absolutely am confident that we'll deliver on that.
Good, thank you. Question here about one of your products. Your website has a page, Lanyard Recall. Is that an issue that has been resolved, or are there still some costs to be associated with this?
Oh, there's it's been on there for a while. It was actually a product that Samina produced, and I think to date we've, with all of the hundreds of thousands of fixtures, I think we've had minuscule amounts. I mean, there's no cost. I mean, we hold a warranty provision anyway, which is equivalent to 1% of our sales. We are well below that. It was really not a big issue. And the lanyard is just a retention.
Okay, thank you.
Picture, yeah.
Question in the industrial sector, the penetration of LED lighting is low. What do you think are the catalysts to change this?
I mean, it's one of the dilemmas. I always think about, why is the penetration so low? And when you actually go into our customers' facilities, you understand firsthand what, because of the type of manufacturing they're doing and the type of processes they're doing, why it's so easy to not change the lighting, because you're gonna have to stop something that is, and you're putting your staff, your employees in danger. And I think it's much more conservative. But I mean, I think the real catalyst is going to be sustainability. It's going to be reduced energy costs. It's going to be reduced maintenance costs. I mean, it's so difficult to actually get people into some parts of these facilities. If they don't have to worry about a fixture for 10 years, then they're going to go down that option. So I do think we will start to see that accelerate, but industrial customers are traditionally very conservative.
Okay, and I think there's a question here that's all quite nicely linked to that, which is, do you spec out your jobs with your own surveyors and install it yourself and then get a maintenance contract? And do you monitor energy use and give advice?
No, so so what we do is we have our own in-house lighting designer. So we will work with the customer and lay out what we think the lighting layout should be. The installation is either done by the distribution, our distribution partner, or by the customer themselves. We have in the past, and we're seeing a trend, much more of a trend of Eskos coming in. So an Esko will be a company that will come in and they will buy the fixtures from us. They will take over doing the installation, and the customer will pay based on the energy savings. So we have seen, quite a surge of Eskos in the market, and we're working with one large Esko in Europe at the moment, and a couple in the US, and I think that's only going to build. So we don't do that, but we would sell into an Esko. Okay.
How commoditized are these LED lights, and do you have any pricing power?
Yeah, we do have price. So if you look at the industrial market and you look at the really harsh and hazardous, the chemical plants, some of the food and beverage, the oil and gas. Our customers don't buy based on price, and where the most important thing is safety of their employees. So they're going to go with a fixture that is trusted. As you get further down that curve to an Amazon warehouse, well, frankly, that's not an area that we would necessarily compete in, because if a fixture goes out there, no one cares, and they will go and buy a fixture for $100. The fixtures that we produce, they go through, 6 months of testing and certification so that they can withstand humidity, withstand vibration. There's a whole load of things before we bring a product to market. So you don't see commoditization at the industrial or the heavy industrial, but further down the warehousing you do, and that's not an area Dialight would. I don't even know if we would know how to produce a fixture that costs that could retail at $100.
Okay.
They are literally bent sheets of metal with a couple of LEDs where no one cares where the light is directed, whether power supply fails or not.
Okay. And just a quick follow-up to that, what is the premium then that your products can command?
We can be anything from 10 to 25% above our competitors.
Okay. Wow, that's great pricing power. Lots of the future sounds like self-help and organic growth. What is your view on M&A in the space, and what in particular would drive this? And is there anything missing from your offering for the market opportunity out there?
We're constantly looking at our product portfolio, and we have a 3-year roadmap of products. We don't have every variant of everything you would need. So part of our strategy with our product roadmap is to fill those, not only bring out more efficient versions of what we've got, but also to fill those portfolio gaps. In terms of M&A, yes, I'm sure once we have a window to think about it, that there would be synergies out there. We've been so focused on riding the COVID crisis and self-help at the moment that we've just come up for air, really.
Okay. A linked question to that on M&A, I guess, is about capital allocation. And so what is your capital allocation considerations, as the balance sheet continues to strengthen?
Well, we, as you know, we've done a lot of work on improving our liquidity, especially in COVID, and to the extent that we can't reinvest it in the business, we would return it to shareholders by any means, a dividend or a distribution.
Okay. We talked a bit about the recovery and improvement in sales.
It's probably worth just adding a couple of sentences there, because capital allocation is something that large shareholders care about. And I think our point of view is, first of all, and Fariyal has been terrific on this, is that we wanted to drive to financial flexibility. And right now, I would say we have not yet achieved financial flexibility. As we continue to pay down the debt, though, and this business is cash generative, then we will be in a position to have financial flexibility. And financial flexibility will mean that we will be able to look at the M&A opportunities that Fariyal described. It will also mean that we'll be able to return cash or value to shareholders. But we will, in every instance, maintain financial flexibility. For us, that is most important. And the reason why we were able to ride through COVID in a way that others were not is that we had financial flexibility. We were able to keep our sales force in situ, which was a huge advantage to us relative to our competitors. And why? Because we had financial flexibility. So financial flexibility is a critical component of what this board is trying to do.
Okay, thank you. The question here was you were talking about improving sales and improving your margin. What is the sustainable margin opportunity at Dialight?
So this company, when I joined, used to generate in excess of 40% gross margin. So there is absolutely no reason to not get back to those historic levels. I mean, obviously during COVID, we had some additional costs. Most of those are unwinding, and as volume goes through the facilities, 85% of our costs are fixed. So as soon as you put volume through the factories, you get great operating leverage.
Thank you. Can you comment on who your major competitors are?
Yeah, so our major competitors are the LED arms of the large lighting companies. So the Craftslights, the Hall of Fames, the Appletons. So they're part of Emerson, Eaton, Acuity. We don't see much of Signify. We'll see a couple of niche players in certain verticals, like for example, in the oil and gas in the US, we'll see a company called Dialight. In Europe, we'll see Stahl occasionally, very rarely Glenarx. But it is the LED arms of the large lighting manufacturers that we come up against.
Okay. And on that competitive front, has the competitive landscape changed a lot during the more troubled times the company's been through? And does this diminish what can be achieved?
Well, you know what really surprised me is if I was running one of those competitors, I would have made sure I absolutely stole every customer Dialight had. And the fact that they weren't able to react, the fact that our customers waited ridiculous amounts of time for our products, first of all, was a testament to the quality of our products. And secondly, a testament to, well, actually they weren't really that focused. And the fact that we've been able to fix our operations and win back so much market share in under 12 months, I think talks to the strength of this company. So I actually think the opportunity is large here.
Okay. Looking at your sort of geographic exposure, Europe seems quite small for you relative to the US and Australia. What are you doing about this?
So we've had a bit of a troubled, I think the assumption in the past was that Europe is the same as APAC and is the same as the US. And actually Europe is made up of many different countries, each country with nuances in terms of certifications, how you sell into those markets. So what I did at the end of 2019 was did a complete restructure of that team with just focusing on a couple of key countries, for example, the UK, Benelux, France, and Germany. And that's where we're focused on now. And actually, we have some really good strategic accounts out of the UK. So we do every single DS Smith facility globally. The same with Pilkington, the glass manufacturer. And actually running Europe much more on that strategic account with not so much of the scattergun approach that we had previously is actually paying dividends now. And I do believe that sustainability, we're seeing it already, is such a major factor, and it is just increasing in Europe, and that will accelerate conversion here.
I'm going to follow up with a question on that because someone's asked them, what are the environmental benefits of these LED lights over the traditional technology?
Well, first of all, they last a lot longer. They're more energy efficient. They don't contain any harmful substances in them. I mean, those are really the key.
Okay. I know you talked about new product innovation and how key that is to you. Can you tell us anything about what's in the new product hopper and what you might expect new products to be as a percentage of sales?
So, I mean, we work on a two-pronged approach. Firstly, filling in our product portfolio gaps, and then secondly, upgrading our new products. So we developed some products back in 2019, and that had new power supplies and new optics, which we were then able to use those building blocks and put them into the two products that we developed in 2020. My focus very much now is how do we get more focused on sustainability with our product portfolio, because it's great to have this energy efficient, sustainable product, but if it ends up in a landfill at the end of 10 years, then we haven't done our job. So having use of much more recyclable materials is going to be a key driver in our product portfolio. And the ease of installation as well. I mean, the easier you can make something to install, the more you're going to win in this market.
Thank you. And just as a reminder to everyone, if you do want to ask a question, please just type it into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. I've got a question which refers, I think, to a previous answer. Can you tell us what is an Esko?
So Esko stands for Energy Saving Services Company. I mean, basically, what they are, they're almost the middleman. So instead of a distribution, they will get they will work with different firms of contractors and different manufacturers. Then they will go and sell to a customer, and that customer will pay. They'll install all their fixtures, but the customer will only pay based on the energy savings that those fixtures have generated. So we did a very large project back in 2015, 14 for General Motors, and that was a €4 million project, and that was all through an Esko.
Okay. You flagged up earlier on one of your slides that you had 6 million of additional COVID-related costs. Are any of those costs ongoing this year?
Besides some of the PPE, no, because what was included in there was the fact that the factories closed for a period of time. We have essential business status for all of our factories. So, you know, we're not going to have to apply for that again. And then, you know, part of those costs were the inefficiencies that resulted on the fact that if you look at a shift, a typical shift in Mexico, we have typically between 450 to 500 people per shift. When we were at the height of COVID, reduced that down to about 150. So we had to run the factories literally 7 days, 24/7, and that created, you know, some challenges in balancing the lines. So a big portion of those will unwind. I do, and then also we had employees that were classified as vulnerable, which we continued to pay.
Okay, and just on your factories, what is the current average factory capacity, and what is needed for profitability? I think actually they're probably thinking about what is the factory usage rates, I guess, and what's needed for profitability.
So, I mean, as I said earlier, we are targeting to be profitable this year. And the way our manufacturing works, it isn't, you know, it's not a case that we have to go out and buy another 10 machines. We run 1.5 shifts, 5 days a week. And when we have, I mean, this is quite a seasonal business. When we have peaks, we will just run an additional shift or an additional 2 shifts at the weekend. The key is your components, in making sure, you know, on average, we've got between 300 and 500 components that goes into each fixture. So managing the supply chain and making sure that all of those components are in is what is key in terms of driving volume.
Okay, thank you. We've just got one more question to come to here. What are your best-selling products, and what sort of order ranges do you get in those products?
So a customer will never buy, very rarely will buy just one product. So it's normally our highest, our biggest product family is the high bay, but there's lots of different types of high bay. You saw the high ceiling mount high bay. There is different lumen packages. But high bay is about 50% of our product portfolio, but in there, there's a number of SKUs. But then a different area of the plant, say a walkway might need an area light. They might need a floodlight for outside. So customers typically, your order size could be anywhere from a few thousand to 5 million, depending on what they're doing. Some customers, when I talk about MRO business, the maintenance repairs, they will place an order, anywhere between 5,000 and under 100,000 month in and month out. And some customers will actually upgrade their facilities by doing a few lights at a time. We prefer the ones that will do that and then do the big lighting upgrade where you get the big CapEx projects as well.
Of course, thank you. That brings us to the end of the questions. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. So thank you very much for everyone who's attended. As you exit today, you will be asked to complete a small exit survey, and I know management really appreciate that if you could complete that so we could collect some feedback today. So thank you for doing that. And last but not least, just to flag up webinars we've got coming up, one tomorrow with Myriad, 2 weeks time with Lloyds Bank, and into June with Castings. So thank you very much for David and Fariyal for presenting. Thank you everyone for attending today, and we hope to see you all soon.